Number 11. Which of the following situations contributes to the sustainability of an ecosystem? All right, I circled the word contributes. Contributes means positive things. All right, so if I contribute to the school, I usually either give my time, or I'm giving money, or I'm purchasing something of a resource. It's a positive thing. I don't say I contributed to the funeral and and I ended up with money in my pocket from that funeral. That's not a contribution. That would be a negative. Okay, if you contribute to somebody's fund for college, then you're adding money to it. If you contributed ideas, you added ideas. So we're adding stuff in the positive way to the sustainability of an ecosystem. The holding together of how well an ecosystem is going to hold together beforehand. How is it holding together after a disaster? Okay. So which one's positive contribution? The increase of biodiversity. So the increase of different organisms, will that positively contribute or positively add to sustainability? Of course it would. Okay, so I'm a question mark. The decrease in biodiversity, the subtraction of different organisms is going to be a positive thing? No, of course not. The lower number of biodiversity that you have, the less sustainable that ecosystem is. C. Extinction, the death, the removal of a population from an ecosystem. It's gone forever. That's not a positive thing. That's negative. Okay? And D. The removal of many populations of organisms. Removal. That is not a positive thing. Again, that's a negative thing. It's taking some organisms away, even if it's for a little bit. That would make it less sustainable. It would not survive. Okay? Or it'd have a very difficult time surviving. Number 12. The food webs below model relationships among organisms in two ecosystems. So we have two different ecosystems. An oak forest food web, and we have a grassland food web. We have one producer, 1, 2, 3 producers here. I can already tell you this one's more sustainable, more biodiverse, or sustainable, right? Or not or. They're both hand by hand. Sustainable. Students were asked to make a claim supported with evidence to answer the question, which ecosystem would be most sustainable if all the grasses died from severe drought? What claim is valid and supported by the evidence? So we're going to have to use this right here. The forest ecosystem is most sustainable. That's true. I already put that out there because I just saw more producers. Because there are more top predators. Nope. Not it. G. The grassland ecosystem is more sustainable. It's not. Can already tell you less organisms right here. G cannot be it. The forest ecosystem is most sustainable because most of the animals can eat other organisms. So if one of these dies, which the grass died out, yes, these organisms will adapt and eat something else, like the oak tree leaves, the oak trees, the wildflowers. Over here, you have the grasses, and boom, the collapse of the grassland food web. So question mark right here. The grassland food ecosystem is more sustainable. Most sustainable? Nope. Answer is H. Number 13. Number 13 says, which event would most likely cause an ecosystem to have the lowest biodiversity, less amount of organisms, different organisms, and population sizes 3 years later? Okay? Well, the clearing of land for a highway. So we had a street, we had a highway, and when you clear the land, or you're preparing, so whatever you had there, you're preparing it because you're going to have a highway now. Are you going to have low amounts of biodiversity? I would say you wouldn't even have biodiversity. It's a street. Okay, so I'm not going to even consider this one. A river floods a cornfield. You have low biodiversity here. Okay? Because you have cornfield. You have the same species, corn. Yeah, you're going to have a few insects, pests, right, coming to eat the corn, even some other larger organisms, but it's still pretty low biodiversity. C, a forest fire destroys the plant growth. So we're going to have secondary succession happen here. But 3 years later, it will rebound. Okay, it will come back. It will not have the lowest. And now D, the lava flow creates a new section of land. This is bare rock. This equals primary succession. And you know about primary succession. When you have bare rock, you have to have lichen come in to break down the rock. Then you have mosses that also help turn it into the soil that it needs. This one in 3 years will not have lots of biodiversity. So D is your best choice. Number 14, the role of pioneer species of plants that get there first, like moss, like lichens, in primary succession is to change the bare habitat into one that is suitable, from rock into soil. A species that is responsible for primary succession in an ecosystem is most likely able to survive any predator. That's not it. Migrate during the winter? Nope. They're not able to move. They're plants. Okay, they don't leave an area. Do they survive any predators? They get eaten. They're plants. H, live in high altitudes? This question, you're usually not having primary succession at very top places. Okay, maybe secondary. J, carry out photosynthesis. Yes, these are plants. Plants carry photosynthesis. So J is your answer. 15, which of the following sequences most likely represent ecological succession on a recently abandoned wheat field? So let's see what's going to happen for the wheat field. Okay? So they let the wheat grow. They just let it. Alright? So, let's look at our answer choices. We start with grass, native trees, shrubs, and flowering plants. I can already tell you there's no trees in that recently abandoned wheat field. There's also not lots of shrubs in that either. Okay? And if you know about ecological succession, which this one would be secondary, you always start with grass. Alright? This one would be the second best. Okay? Just from the starting position. I didn't even take a look at the next ones. Okay? Native plants to shrubs. You don't go from big trees to shrubs. You don't go from shrubs to grasses. You don't go from small plants to native trees. You always go from small plants like grasses to bigger plants like flowering plants to larger, a little bit bigger shrubs, right? Short trees. And then you have native trees, those big trees, okay? Depending on what area they're at, maybe maple, oak, okay? Trees that grow, pine trees, all right? Number 16. Number 16 tells you what is the relationship between ecological succession, so what's this, and equilibrium. Equilibrium. Sounds like the word equal. Sounds like balance. Sounds like trying to keep together an ecosystem. So what do these two words have to do with each other, these two science terms? Well, one of them is restoring, right? Secondary is restoring an ecosystem. Primary would be to create an ecosystem. What's equilibrium? Bringing balance. Okay, so F says ecological succession leads to equilibrium in an ecosystem. That is it. Whenever you have the creation of an ecosystem, it's bringing balance, it's bringing equilibrium. If you had secondary succession going on, you're restoring the ecosystem back to the place that it looked before the destruction, and how it was, the food webs and everything, how it's supposed to work. Okay, let's look at G. Ecological succession prevents ecosystems from they're not fighting together. No. H, there is no relationship. Ooh, that's already wrong. These two words are key. This one is balance. We talked about it early in the year. Okay, and we kept saying, what's the whole point of this? It is to bring balance to the ecosystem. Ecological succession and equilibrium are the same thing. No, they're not. Okay, one of them is the process, all right, that takes a long time to get to balance. This is the process, and this is the actual balance, all right? So F is our answer for 16. Number 17, a hurricane, ooh, we have a disaster, hits a coastal prairie and destroys the habitat. Years later, so this is time, there is an appearance of small plants with rapidly spreading roots. The vegetation describes a microhabitat. A small habitat? No, it's a regular size habitat, so no, it's not A. Primary succession, bare rock. Where you at? Bare rock? No. Secondary succession, coastal prairie. The prairie was destroyed by hurricane. Question mark. The vegetation describes biodiversity. It just said small plants. We don't even know the amount, so we can't be it. C is your best choice. 18. A flower bed is created at a school so plants can be planted in the autumn. Autumn is fall. All right? That's about October through September, October, November, okay, even parts of December. Over the summer, the flower bed is ignored, not kept up. They don't do anything. Which of the following should the students expect to find when they come back to school? When do they come back? In the autumn. All right? Nothing. Psh, you know that happens. Never. It never does nothing. It always does something. G, weeds. That's a good one. Those are small plants. H, ooh, they're shrubs. When they come back, bigger plants. Nope. Trees. A tree already planted in there. Nope. Unless somebody brought it, but they didn't say that. It just said if it was ignored. Okay. You cannot go from having nothing that's a flower bed that's ignored with shrubs by the time the kids come back, or the tree when the students come back. No, you would just have you would have weeds. So answer G is our best answer. Number 19. When forest fires destroyed many of the pine trees, ooh, we have destroyed right here, secondary succession, you should already start thinking about. Where did this happen? This happened in Bastrop State Park. The burned areas began secondary succession. Ooh, tells you right there. What is the role of the succession in this example? Creating new soil. Nope, soil already exists. Soil already there. You don't need soil. It's already there. B, restoring the ecosystem through grass, shrubs, and the tree stages. Ding, ding, ding. That sounds great. But we're going to look for the best answer. C, changing the landscape to be more fire resistant in the future. That is not something that plants can decide. If they're fire resistant with one fire, they can't do that. They can't adapt in a short amount of time. D, opening the land for new uses like farming and raising livestock. The role of succession is not that you can open the land so that you can do farming or raising livestock. That's not the role. B is our best answer. And last question, number 20. Remember, we didn't answer 21. So last question, 20. In 2011, fires in Bastrop County, Texas, were the most damaging wildfires in Texas history. The fire spread through the pine trees and scorched nearly 5,700 acres of Bastrop State Park. The majority of the Houston toad's habitat was lost. We lost something. And the lost pines forest was greatly affected. Okay, so we have secondary succession happening here. Again, there's already an ecosystem set up. As ecological succession began, they didn't specify which one, but we know it's secondary. Which of these most likely appeared in the Bastrop Forest area first? So what was the first stage? Shrubs and trees. Shrubs are small, trees are larger. I don't think that would be our first thing. Newly developed topsoil, so we went from rocks to soil. Nope, there's already soil exists. Soil already there. You can't have new topsoil if you're not breaking down, weathering and eroding. Weeds and grasses, that's a great one. Lichens on fallen trees. Remember, we talked about lichens, but lichens on the rocks. Okay, H is your best answer, and that is it, y'all.